This is a what you see is what you get web editor called Flux V. I've reviewed the previous version, one of the first two versions. This is now finally on its fifth version. Flux V opens with a template selection here. You can open a project that you previously saved or create a new project from here. You can tick to show this dialog startup of the program or not. From over here, you can select recently saved projects, a remote project, or template. So here's a list of some of the templates that it comes with. So let's just select one. Let's select Pet Shop. Double click it. Okay, then the main window opens with the logo. So then you'd probably start off by opening the index.html page. Double click it, and here we go. Here you can see it's the main editing panel. This is where you can select elements. Now, to change an element, you might expect to double click, but what you do, you select an element, then you go up to where the header is for that particular element. In this case, a div. It's inside a div class banner. So then we can click this little cog, and it opens that particular element up. So let's select here, and you see that the header says it's an image. Then we can select over here. And then as you can see, it then opens up like this. This is basically all text editor. But if we unclick assisted editing, you can see that it's plain HTML there. Or tick this and it makes it a bit clearer, especially if there's a lot of it. The program is 64-bit multi-threaded. Now let's change this to say text. We can then change the page it opens to another page. I won't actually do that right now. You can then hit go up, which goes up a level, which depends upon what you have open. In this case, it's not going back up. But if you, let me see if I can show you. Let's try, see what happens on this one. There. Now let's do that again. Now if we click here, click the cog, we have this bit here opened up that we can change the text of. We can change the link here, or we can hit go up, and then it's gone back up a level, and you can see more elements. Back up, more elements again. Quite handy. You then have some of the regular type of elements here that you may expect to find, such as header 1, header 2, or a link, span, bold, underline, and italic. Then we can go up here and you have some elements from on the page, such as the background color. So you can just click it and open up its special dialog there. Same with background image. And some of the other classes and things like that here. Now, what is this side panel? Well, you have a side panel here with styles. So it shows some of the styles in the style sheet, such as a header style, a logo style, things like that. Various elements for the listed navigation. If you had any JavaScript, it would be listed up here. We can scroll down, have a look at all the rest. Or we can click Navigator, and we can navigate through some of the elements and code, such as the head, the body, title, body div, header div, footer div. Or we can hit site, which is basically your library of files in the project, such as your CSS files and each of the HTML files. Now on the right side here, we have things like div, so we can quickly insert an empty div or floating quick div. Various other elements such as tables here, lists, and blocks such as paragraphs, headers, and spans. Keep scrolling, and you've got media, so you can insert a HTML5 video easily, or audio, or a quick image, an image. You can embed a Java applet, although you don't really see those used very much these days because Java applets tended to get replaced in newer websites with Flash, and now Flash is gradually making way for HTML5. So I'd recommend sticking with HTML5 as much as you can and only use things like Flash or even Java applet if you really have to. You also have an easy way to embed a YouTube video, embed audio from any other source, a QuickTime file, some form elements such as a quick form, and various elements for forms. Then you have image maps, insert a map, HTML5 elements such as article, a side, a header, a footer, navigation, dialogue, and figure. And then we have other such as an empty JavaScript and PHP. Also, as you can see, it does support things like Ruby. The button here is, as you can see, we're on this one. If we click the A's, it allows you to type directly. Whoops, go down here to something. Directly into the file. And this is more for selections. Here you have tabs of different pages. At the moment we only have the one open, and we can click the drop down to close that tab, close all tabs, or reveal the file in Finder. At the moment we're in edit mode. We can then also go to preview. So now we're previewing the page as it would look in the web browser. You can't edit it from here. You then have a live preview, so you could say open it up in Safari or Chrome. Now let's start at the left on the toolbar. We have swatches. At the moment there's only one by default, which is roses, which is various shades of red. If we go to plus, we can create another one and edit here various colors. Then you can name your swatch. You can also click here to open a GPL file. And as you can see, we created one here, so I'm just going to delete it. Now we have masters. You can create a master here. You can use a master or update a master file. You then have this interesting feature now here called crowd code. That's a way of downloading code that you may want to use in your website that's sort of pre-made. So let's click it and see what we have. We can hit refresh, and as you see, there isn't much at the moment. Here's some public domain code that you can use, such as a sample of how to use jQuery. You have some CSS style sheet transitions. You have a very basic example made by them for this program. As you can see, this is a very basic example of crowdsourced packages. It simply shows how to use simple CSS styles. Then you have a CSS table, and lastly an advanced example, a fairly advanced example of using jQuery and jQuery Ajax. You can then hit download and install if there's one you want to use, such as say CSS transitions. Then we have project. Here you can name your project, put in who the author is, which is presumably yourself, any notes you want, restore open files, enable rollback for a project, or purge all versions, so you can keep various versions if you find you've made a huge mistake and want to go back. You then have code. So it's not all drag and drop. You can go directly into the HTML of the file, such as this one is index.html. I've hit code, and now you can see the doc type, the structure such as your HTML, your header, then you've got your title and metadata, and various things like the body, and you can then see all the divs and lists that make up that file. And you can edit it. It's not restricted to just viewing. You can say call this there, now that has changed. You saw it refresh up here to make sure that it updated the preview with any changes you made in the code. We can then hit validate. No errors found. This would tell you if there's any obvious errors inside your code. You then have assets, which shows you things like your various files you're using, such as your logo.gif or your style.css. Below here we have frames, so we can show all the frames above the elements, the padding, the margins, the spans, the tokens, relations, the grid, and the masters, and we can turn off any we don't want to see, such as you can see, we now have a grid. we can easily go down here and turn that back off. As well as having a built-in way to validate your code, you also have Google Fonts, which is a very, very handy feature. Because if you just use a what you see is what you get and change it to some weird font you have in your system, the chances are the user on the other end is not going to have that font. So here we can use Google Fonts, and as it says, as you can see, Google Font allows you to use any font in the Google Font directory. The font will be referenced from Google. There is no need to download the font to the system. Choose the font below you want to use on your page. You can set up more than one. Note the preview will only work if an internet connection is available. So say we scroll and let's say we want to use this one as our font for any headers in our text. We can hit setup. Now enter a name for a new corresponding CSS style. If you don't want to create a new CSS style, then leave it blank. I'm just going to leave it blank. The font is now set up and ready to be used. Hit done. Now whenever we want that font to be used, such as here, we can use it. Under page where we got to Google Font, we also have preview from here as well. We have an insert an object, so we can go to say div and do a floating quick div, or we can go to HTML5 and quickly insert a nav, or we can go to miscellaneous, insert Ruby, insert Tumblr, Concrete 5, elements or media such as HTML5 video from here as well. We can insert using assisted, so you have YouTube or image from clipboard. From the edit menu, we have various options, including your arrangement, your select, your toggle lock. You also, from here, get to your various standard options such as font, spelling, find. But if you go down, you can also go to code editing and do tidy code to tidy up your HTML code. There you go, it's done. It just tidies up the layout of the code here to make it more readable. From file, we have all the standard things, including a few such as import a web archive, project settings, which is this here basically. If we get to view, go to view, you can see the various options here for edit, preview, or preview a custom URL, code editor, refresh preview. You can also show and hide various elements here, which is basically what's down here. You can also show hide grids and rulers from here, customize the toolbar here. And from the window menu, as well as looking at things like crowdsourced code and swatches, you can also hide and show the side panels here and here if they're in your way. You can get to Site Manager from here. Now from Flux V menu, you can get to About Box to see what version is being used. In this case, it's the latest version at the time of making this review, which is 5.6.6. You can also get to Preferences from here. I won't go through every single last element, but you have your standard general stuff here, including disable tooltips or autosave. Then you have browsers, so you can add and remove various browsers. Click find here, and if it doesn't find a browser, you can drag and drop it from your applications folder. Colors, such as color schemes, you can select, say, graphite. You can select a pre-made, aqua, natural, so let's just select aqua. Now, editor, font, and color. So what does the font look like in, say, the HTML editor? What colors does it use? You can edit all there. You can go to editor. You can have how much you want for a tab width or indent width. Various other indenting options here and editing options. Then you have various options for your guides and any bookmarks. Now let's have a quick look at creating a project from scratch without using a template. Let's go to New, Right, once we've saved the new file, we hit File, New. Then it will ask you to save it. You know, what location do you want to save the project in? You select that, give it a name, hit Save. Then the next thing it will do, because you're not selecting a template, it will ask you, do you want to create an empty index or HTML file and a main.css and an images folder to get you started? Basically, the essential few files that you want. You probably want to hit Yes. Now, if you go to HTML, go to index, as you can see, let's have a look at the code. What it's done is created the basic skeleton of a HTML file. So you have your doc type and all the basic headers such as HTML, head, title, close head, body, close body, and close HTML. And then it's even put in a few meta tags for you to get you going, such as the author, keywords, and it's referenced the main.css file to use, which at the moment you can see here. So let's go to styles. There you go, here's main.css open and it's empty. But as soon as you start adding some styles into that CSS, it's already linked inside the index or HTML file, so the changes will take effect immediately. Now, if we go back to index, go within the body, we can go to edit, page, insert object, HTML5, header. There you go. You have a header. Now you want I'm going to say an article. And a footer. Now there is all the elements to get you started with a blank, brand new file. You can edit HTML. You can still go up here and do your dragging and dropping of elements, such as from here. What do I think of it? Well, it has a very unique way of using what you see is what you get. It's not quite like if you've used the old front page on Windows. You don't just double click on an element, start typing, although yes, in this case for text you can, but if you've got a template, let me show you, if you've got a template like this open, at first at least, if you're not used to this program, its way of doing things, it seems a little weird, a little tricky to get a little hard to get used to, because you select here, you find your element, you hit edit, which is an unusual way of doing things. You would think you could just double click, but it seems to be a little tricky doing it that way. So I don't really like the way, at least as to begin with, of editing a template. You're much better off, I think, using this program. Personally, I think you're much better off using this program as an editor. If you're planning on making a website from scratch, it's a great way to make a HTML5 website from scratch. But as a to edit ready-made templates, I don't like it for that, really. I don't like its way of selecting stuff. Yes, you can click up here and attempt to edit, but I don't know, it just seems it takes a little bit getting used to trying to edit a template in this program. You're much better off with Flux building your own website from scratch. And I think especially if you are a beginner to HTML, this is actually a good program to get started with, because you're not going into this like you're going into Coffee Cup Web Editor, where it's just a basic HTML editor and you just type code away. You have the code editor, so you can always start from scratch, start typing and start learning HTML5, but then the preview will update up here. And if you want to quickly edit text, instead of finding it in the code, you can always go here and edit it in the preview window. So it's a good way to learn to make websites in HTML, while at the same time still being able to preview and edit in a what you see is what you get editor. It's available both directly from their website and from the Mac App Store. there is a free trial. So as I tend to with all these programs I review, I recommend, even if what you've seen you don't like the look of, or if what you've seen you think is definitely the type of program you're looking for, either way, I would definitely recommend you go to their website and download a trial and make sure you try it out and play around with it first. Don't rush into getting any of these programs I review. If I say there's a trial, always check it out, for yourself, because you may think it looks all right from what I show, and then you may find it trickier than it looks, or vice versa. So I'll put a link in the description to their website, as well as a link to buy it on the Mac App Store. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate but to ask in the comments along with this video. Please like and share this video, and if you could do me a huge favor and subscribe, as it only take a few seconds, it will help me out a lot. Thanks.